Hi, I'm Caroline Rose Bohannon, founder of Cattleman U and a cow-calf rancher in Montana, and I'm here today with Dr. Kohler, who is our vet at She's a Hand Ranch Camp and a large animal vet here in Montana. Thanks for sitting down with me.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Today we're going to talk about how to have a productive conversation with your veterinarian, and that conversation really starts with a relationship, which is why I'm here with Dr. Kohler, because she has been our She's a Hand Ranch Camp vet for 3 years now, multiple camps, and she's also our vet for our yearling operation based in Kalispell, Montana. And so not only do we have lots of conversations, but we have a great relationship, and what we want to model to our attendees at ranch camp is the value of a good relationship and how it is like a give and take, and it's a two-way street, because I feel like it has been, I don't know the right words to say it, but it's almost like people have put their vet kind of like, I'm calling them on emergencies, like not as a consultant. And we really view you as a consultant. Obviously, there are things you do, preg checks, semen tests that we obviously can't do. Your license gives you that ability. But also, you get text messages and calls from us all the time with like, have you seen this? Do you have any idea about this? Have you ever heard of this? And I think that relationship piece is so important. And so thinking back to when you first became a vet, how did you start to form some of those relationships with your clients and kind of make them professional, but also understanding that like, I am reachable and I can have conversations with you?
Yeah, I think from the veterinary perspective, the hardest thing with it, but the most necessary thing, is having some boundaries with it. So for my regular clients, people that I know well, that I see all the time, I do work for them regularly, it's easy to have that conversation, have productive conversations, and I'm happy to do those kind of consult type things, texts, phone calls, whatever, without necessarily always having to see the animal. But I can't really do that legally. First of all, I can't do that for people that I haven't seen their animals. It's hard for me to do that with people who I've only seen them one time on emergency. I don't know what medications they have on hand. I don't know how their operation works. I haven't, seen the whole setup that way. It's hard to have a productive conversation that way. So there are times where you kind of have to set those boundaries of, no, I can't answer this for you over the phone. We do have to schedule a visit, versus, yes, I'm happy to do that.
And I think one of the big things with that is probably someone telling you the full truth. And I know that a lot of times when you're at camp, we'll say something like, well, Dr. Kohler's probably not going to love this, but this is what we, approval that we got from our vet to do this, or this is what we're trying. And I think knowing the whole picture allows you to answer the questions better. And I know some people will be like, well, I can't tell my vet that. They didn't want me to do that, or they won't love that I haven't vaccinated anything, or whatever it is. But you can't really help unless you really understand the full picture.
Yeah.
And you're not in it to like look down on customers or, make them feel guilty. Your job is to help.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, even if it's something that, your vet doesn't necessarily agree with, or that wasn't their plan or anything like that, really any good vet, in my opinion, is not going to be judgmental about that in the moment, because that's not the point in the moment. The point is to help the animal, help the client figure out what they need to do. So we need all of the information, like you said, to do that. We need to know what other medications were given, what vaccines weren't or weren't given, so that we can help make different management or treatment decisions.
The other thing, too, is I think a lot of times vet relationships start with an emergency, right? They will pick up the phone, and whether their regular vet's not available or they're new to the area, they pick up the phone in the middle of the night, and they expect the vet to respond right away and show up. And that is such a difficult way to start the relationship. I remember when we first moved to this place, so we were actually at our family operation here in Townsend, which is a little outside of Dr. Kohler's normal range, but you come down here for ranch camp. We went through the phone book to figure out and map out where all the vets were, just to get an idea, first of all, before we even establish a relationship, like where is everyone, who can get here in an emergency, who do we want to have a relationship with, who do we really value their education and how they handle themselves. But that was one of the big things when we first got there, is we started to establish those relationships way before the middle of the night call. And it is so challenging because, one, we have a large animal vet shortage. And we live in rural Montana. And so lots of miles to put on, especially in an emergency. And so in the best scenario, an emergency should not be the start of a relationship. If you can go out and have any type of conversation with them before, one, it makes that emergency call easier to handle. And two, if they're already an established client, they get preference over non-established clients, which I think maybe people don't understand sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that proactive approach is the most ideal you can do. Obviously, there's times where you can't always plan for that sort of thing, where that emergency visit is the first time that you're going to be seeing a veterinarian, the veterinarian you're going to be using. But as much as you can be proactive about it, like you said, looking up who's in your area, seeing if they do what you need for different services, trying to get someone out there for routine work, or even just buying vaccines, something to establish that relationship, go talk to them, having them out for like a consult visit where they can get to know your operation, get to know you, goes a long way in the future towards, first of all, being able to do those more consultation, phone call, text, anything like that without appointments, and also just, to your point, also getting you a little better priority if you have to choose between the person you see all the time and, gives you money all the time versus a person that you've never seen before. You're probably going to go to the long-standing client who you have that relationship with and who you have a little bit more loyalty to in that way.
And I think there is some stigma in the industry that you can only have one vet, that like you can have a relationship with one. Well, we definitely break that stereotype. We find what people really lights people up, and like we work with them where it's their zone of genius. So we probably work with 6 vets on a very regular basis, and we are not afraid to say, oh, we take our dogs to this vet, we take our horses here, so-and-so is who's in charge of our prig checking. Like, we are completely okay with that, and it is fine to share the responsibility, especially if you have a larger operation, and work with people, one, that you like to work with, but two, who get to do the stuff that really lights them up, because you all do things that you don't absolutely love, but there are things that you just really love to do, and if we can pay someone to do what they love to do, we'd rather do that than make them come here and dread it every single trip.
Yeah. And I think with the large animal shortage of veterinarians in general, you almost have to have at least a backup that that you can call, ideally have a relationship with that way, because we're just spread so few and far between. As you know, for me, with doing the mobile large animal, I can sometimes be an hour or 2 away from some of my clients, depending on how far I'm having to travel to service the whole area that I work in. And so if they have another vet that they can call, if it's, a true emergency, they need someone sooner than an hour or 2, then it's good for them to have that backup, have that relationship established that way. And then, like you said, too, some people just, gravitate a little bit more towards certain things. They might be better skilled in those areas versus another person. Personally, I think that's great. I don't see anything wrong with that.
And we think there's plenty of work and money to go around, especially in large animal vets. And also, something that's really important to us is, like, these are people in our community. And so, if they're really good at, we have one vet that only does, like, bone stuff on dogs. That's probably not the technical term, but like any like hip issues or a broken leg or any, like we drive them just to that one vet because that's really their specialty. But like they're in our small towns and our communities, and so like they play a huge role in just like the whole scenario, right? Funding the schools and everything like that. And so we are very happy to spread the wealth. Also, in our scenario, at our main operation, we have more work than one vet could do. Like we could probably employ a vet full time. But that's just not realistic. And so because of that, we do have to have more. But I think permission to know that you can call multiple and set up relationships. And the vet should be okay with that, because there is more work out there for large animal vets than they can get done in a day.
Plenty to go around.
And also we do want to support new vets that are coming out of school. We know the realities, right? It's a harsh industry. There's a lot of debt coming out of school, and it can be hard to move to a place like this, which we find beautiful and wonderful, but there is 300 people. And so if you've never been here before, it can be really hard to get established. The other thing too that I find really helpful with our vets is we do order vaccines. So you can get some of those at the like feed stores. But we like to order them through vets. Usually they can get a better bulk discount. So that really helps, but also gives a little bit of income. And the other thing too is we spread out our healths So we don't just have one person that does a health. Anyone who ships cattle, you have to have a health. And so that is a way that you can support a vet clinic that maybe you don't get to support as often. To give you an idea, the White Sulphur Springs Vet Clinic, we only really get to support them when we have yearlings on grass, so June to September, right? They're the vets we call up there. But we do get a lot of health through them because they do a great job. They have someone at the office all the time who can pump them out. And so we can support them in like kind of a non-traditional way, but still let them know like, hey, our relationship is very valuable. We still want to give you money and support what you're doing in the community, even if you aren't going to be our first call.
Yeah.
So if someone is just starting out in ranching and they, or starting an operation and they want to establish a relationship with a vet, what's kind of the first step? What information do you need to know?
Yeah, I think the kind of gold standard best thing that you could do if it's not an emergency you're dealing with right away is to try to set up just kind of a herd health consult type visit. So you can set up an appointment for your veterinarian to come out, basically go over everything on your operation with you, especially if you are new to ranching. There might be a lot of questions you have that you can go over, answer at that time. So looking at your pasture and pen situation, your hay, your nutrition, anything that way, your vaccine protocol, what medications you have on hand, what you might need on hand, and then those things you can get from your veterinarian as well that way. And so there's a lot that you can go over in that visit that, number one, you can get a lot of your own questions answered, and number two, for the veterinarian, then we have that information going forward. So if you have an emergency, if it's something where we know you have the medications on hand, maybe we can just give you advice to start on your own versus having to come out at that point. You have to pay for the emergency visit. If it happens to be an emergency the first time that you have to get a hold of your vet and have them come out, then as much information as you can give the vet is best. So if you're dealing with a sick animal, what do they look like? When did it start? What symptoms are you seeing? Are you able to get a temperature? What is the temperature? Anything like that. If you've given any treatments, anything, just all the information you can give us gives us a lot to know, prepare for ahead of time on the way over to you, and be able to help you more productively and efficiently.
I think the other thing too is like a herd health visit is not just something that beginners and new ranchers do. Like I think there is probably some, belief that, but our vet comes and rides along in the pickup with Jacob, once a year or something to that nature and just takes a look at everything and says, here's what's going, and really plays that consultant role, which I think is a great place for a vet to be. If you found this video helpful with Dr. Kohler and I, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more ranching education.